Hello and welcome to our podcast series on creative impact. In this episode, we're going to focus on the role of education in creative industries, particularly in the world of art. We're going to discuss education and how it can shape careers, influence market trends, and support the preservation and understanding of cultural heritage. We will also focus on the role of art collectors in societies and their wider impact in general. With us today is Glenn Hardwick-Bruce. Glenn is the former Director of Education at Christie's London and currently the founder of Art Advisory Group. Glenn, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me, Namin.
Please take us through the beginning, your journey into where you are today.
Gosh, that's a long time ago. I remember sitting in my flat in Melbourne in Australia. I was born and raised there. And I always had the dream of studying at Christie's at the education facility there. And I never thought that they would accept me, so I just put that aside. After studying politics and philosophy at university, I didn't go on to do any of that, and my dream was still to work in the art world. So I went back to university and did a degree in archaeology and a master's in ancient art and architecture. And it was during the time when I was living in Tokyo that I applied for a position at Christie's, and it was in the archive department. And I got an email back saying, "We're sorry, Glenn, we don't think you're the right match for archives, but we would like to offer you a position as an assistant in the Christie's Education Library." And I happily accepted the position and the role, and loved it, and just went on and continued my career at Christie's for, as you said, over 12 years.
Lots of travel all over the world, and what an exciting journey. And, you know, as you were speaking, I was wondering, you went into this field and now you're involved in the education part of it. Do you think that creativity is innate or cultivated?
I do believe that we as children have an innate sense of creativity. We're always playing, we're inventing games and drawing and painting. And I think it's something that isn't encouraged enough in children to continue. It seems that it's in very few people is it encouraged later on in life. And then I think people come back to it when they're more mature, when if they haven't had a career in art, if they've gone into finance or law or banking, and they've always had that idea in the back of the mind that they'd love to do something more creative, I think then that they come back to art.
What kind of impact does it have on society as a whole, do you think?
Well, it has a number of roles. I think the collector is an important part of society. They help build the culture of a society, whether that's globally or within the country that they're living in. It also depends on what they collect. They are championing the artist and art in general. And I think by sharing their collections with others, especially if they lend their works to a museum or a gallery for exhibitions, they're helping to extend and expand the knowledge of other people in the community.
In terms of the programs that you are offering and you've previously overlooked, what are the pillars or what are the skills that are transferable in terms of building a cohesive or a holistic program for a young mind to come out as, for example, a collector?
I think collectors are a very particular breed of person. They are extremely passionate and they love what they collect. They've spent many years developing an eye, and they will buy and collect things that they love and love living with. They might look at purchasing a piece of art for investment in the long term. I've said in many other of my podcasts that flipping art,
yes.
which is becoming quite popular, isn't something that most collectors would do. They buy art for the long term and they build a relationship with the art. And if they also follow emerging artists, they will build the relationship with the artist as well. And they will grow their collection together with the evolution of the artist, which is something a lot of young collectors are doing.
Yes. I heard that interview when you talked about the fact that you don't recommend flipping, or it's something that's frowned upon. And that takes me to my next thought, which is art and business, or art as a business or as an investment. What's your view on this?
People collect art for different reasons. I mentioned just before that most collectors are passionate about what they buy, but there are also collectors who purchase art as a business, as an investment. There are many platforms that offer fractional ownership of an artwork. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't understand how that works. I mean, I wouldn't want to buy the tail end of a horse, for example, and have that as part of my collection. I'd want to have the whole thing. And then there's the issue of what happens when you want to sell it, or someone else wants to sell it. It becomes extremely complicated.
The fractional has actually, this concept is across many industries, properties, art, and so forth. But I can see your point of view on not wanting to own a fraction of it. Are there any kind of notable figures amongst your alumni that you would recall?
Well, I can't name names, unfortunately, but we have had many interesting and notable people come through our education programs in the past who have gone on to become the directors of major museums and galleries around the world. We've also had the children of significant politicians around the globe who have come to us to learn about art and art history. Many of our students have gone on to become art advisors, to open galleries, and work in many other areas of the art world. So yes, a significant number of our alumni do go on to do good work.
Is there an age where you need to enter this world and beyond that it's too late?
No, not at all.
No?
Not at all. I mean, I'm an example. I didn't start at Christie's until I was in my 50s, let's say. So you can start at a later age. And many people, as I mentioned earlier, who have a finance, banking, law background can transition quite easily into the art world, having that background.
So you have to know the pillars, the education behind it. You have to have the passion for it.
Yes.
So these are kind of the ingredients for a successful career in this field. Absolutely.
And you have to be determined and know where you want to be. I mean, it's a great experience to work in different areas of the art world just to get experience. Very rarely can you just walk straight into a role in the art world without having a little bit of knowledge of how the art market works, how galleries work, who the key players in the art world are. So it is, if you can get as much experience as possible, that will put you in good stead for moving into an art world position.
Just zooming out a little bit, and circling back to our very first question, what do you see is really the role of art in cultures, in society?
That's a very deep question. It plays a significant role in many areas of our lives. I'm going to mention Carly Allen, who works for a collective, and they focus on slow looking. And this is something that I think it's something that's only really developed in the past few years. We are well aware of the notion of going to a gallery and spending less than 3 seconds in front of a painting and moving on to the next one. And Carly is an advocate of not doing that, of slowly looking at an artwork for as long as it takes, to look at the colors, look at the textures, look at the composition, think about what it's telling you. Do you have a connection with it? Asking all these questions, and it gives you a much deeper appreciation of the artwork and of the artist. And I think this is something that we are moving more towards as humans. We are taking the time. It's this whole wellness, sort of focus on our lives, probably since COVID, that people are trying to balance their lives more. And slow looking at art is one of the most wonderful things that has come out of this.
Talking about wellness, I do notice a significant elevation in mood or well-being after having gone into a gallery and just looked at various paintings and artists. Why do you think that is?
Well, it opens up a lot of discussion. Even if it's just, I don't like this or I like that painting, but it can go much deeper than that, and it can express emotion. It has a connection with our innermost being. And art, I think, that is one of the main purposes for art, is helping us to connect to ourselves and to connect to other people.
Other civilizations and cultures.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's enough focus on global art and looking at the big picture of art. I think that's something that I think will develop more in the coming years.
Yes, I think that would be really ideal and quite important. I find myself, for example, if I'm visiting somewhere like Singapore, the first place you would go to understand the culture is something like the National Gallery.
Absolutely.
And through that, I understood so much more about the culture than anything else I've experienced.
I mean, travel is one of the most important things we can do to understand a culture. And the tours I do with the Art World Advisory Group, going to the cities and the museums and the galleries, you understand more about the artist, especially when you go to churches or to places where the art is produced for that venue. You understand more about why it was created, for what purpose, who commissioned it, why was it commissioned, and you get such a more fulfilling experience by seeing these artworks in person.
And just to kind of conclude a little bit, what do you think are the current trends in this area?
I see a place for digital art, and I think it will continue to grow. It has a place in our current society. I think there will only be steps ahead in this field, but people will always still be drawn to painting and the hand created artworks. I don't see that going away at all.
I'm very glad you're saying that, because so many debates, and it's unknown at the moment. And there's been productions that have been presented with AI. They've been produced with AI and artificial intelligence, trying to beat photographers or trying to beat artists or abstract artists and so on.
Yeah. I mean, for anyone who isn't even creative, just to pick up a pencil and doodle or draw or try to draw something, it gives such a sense of satisfaction. One of our courses at Christie's was on Renaissance drawing, like how the masters would have done it. And to have that opportunity to use a stylus, a silver point stylus, on paper, it's not really paper, it's more like vellum, and creating a drawing that was the same as Da Vinci or Michelangelo would have done, it really pulls something inside of you. It's a connection with the past, but you're doing it now. It's quite amazing.
It sounds really interesting. And I was also looking at your new venture, the group that you've started. Tell us a little bit about this, please.
Well, the Art World Advisory Group was set up really to support people in their passion and their goal to increase their knowledge in art and the art world. It's broken into 3 areas. We have the educational courses with a survey course of art history, starting from the Renaissance and going to contemporary. And then we have the tours around Europe, to Florence, Rome, Venice, Milan will eventually come, but Vienna and Madrid. And as I mentioned earlier, seeing the artworks in person, in situ, which is so important. And this also helps to develop your eye, which is the title of the educational course, Trusting Your Eye. So if you are looking to become a collector, this is very important. So you can establish what you like, what you don't like, what periods you like in art history, the artists that you are drawn to. This helps. You can't see enough art. Well, you can, and you become overwhelmed, but it's you should always be looking at art if you're thinking of collecting. And then finally, there's another survey course on understanding the art market. And this takes you through the key players in the art world, the legal frameworks, insurance, all the aspects that you don't really consider when you think about what's happening in the art world. And of course, we have a wonderful journalist, Melanie Jurlis, who is the writer for the Financial Times, and she will give us her views on what the future of the art market will be and the art world in general, which is a brilliant person to have on this particular course. And then we also offer an art advisory service. So anyone who needs a little bit of assistance with starting a collection, where to go, what to look for, we can help with that. We will take you to art fairs, to galleries, and introduce you to artists and studios, so you can once again develop your likes and what draws you to the point of you're ready to collect.
How long are these courses?
The Trusting Your Eye is around 10 to 12 weeks. There's Managing a Collection, which is, I think, about 5 days. It's a very short course. And the Understanding the Art World is around 10 weeks as well.
So typically a student would graduate and work in one of those fields, but not necessarily become an artist themselves.
No, not necessarily. It could be for their personal interest, yes, or as a stepping stone to a career in the art world.
Yes. So in what ways do you feel that, or view that education actually preserves understanding of cultural heritage?
Interesting question. At Christie's, we had a program where, I think, and it's still running actually, we worked very closely with the Harris Foundation, which is a collection of academies around London established by Lord Harris. And we worked with the academies on developing a program for students, gifted students, who showed potential within the art world and artistically. And we offered them a 3-session program where in the first session they would be introduced to art history, and we would cover the major periods throughout from the Middle Ages right through to contemporary. And for the second session, we would bring them into Christie's and explain how the auction house works. And we would get the students to create their own exhibition space, just with cardboard and cut out images. And we would have them in groups doing that. And then at the end of the session, we would ask each group why they chose this space and the images and what the theme of their exhibition was. And that got them thinking in a creative way about showing and exhibiting artworks in a space. Because for their final session, they would create artworks themselves and sell them at an auction. And certain students would be trained as auctioneers for the day, and each school would present an artwork, and teachers and parents would purchase the artworks, and the money would be given to a charity that the children decided on. And it was such a satisfying experience, both for them, because this is something that they would not normally have the opportunity to have, and it was also wonderful for us to see these children and students doing something and being excited and engaged with art. And many of them, after that experience, had thought about going on to study art at university, which was a very proud moment for us that we'd been able to give that opportunity.
That's wonderful. It's such a great example of, knowledge transfer, education, and how it can shape creativity and culture. And
yes, it starts with young people.
Yes.
And it breaks down the barrier of art being only an elitist concept that you have to have money to be able to work or be involved in the art world, and I don't think that's true anymore.
And so, do you think there's a clash between the term business and the term art? Can they harmoniously work together?
Well, they have to. I mean, if you're buying and selling art, it's an art business, so they have to work together.
I think, that's quite fascinating. We were talking about some of the oversupply of art, which is stored underground, and really important pieces. So what's your view on this? Is there a solution for this?
I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the name of the museum that's doing this, but they have a beautifully architecturally designed building where you can go into their storeroom and view the artworks that are not on show in their museum or gallery. And it's an incredible experience because you see behind the scenes of the museum. And depending on which ticket you purchase, you can go even deeper into the storage component and see the works up close that you wouldn't normally be able to. And as I said, I think a lot of galleries and museums around the world could learn from this particular concept.
Where can the viewers find you if they wanted to reach out?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn under Glenn Hardwick-Bruce. We also have an Instagram page at Glenn Hardwick-Bruce or the Art World Advisory Group. And you can also find us on our website, artworldadvisorygroup.co.uk.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for all these insights. You enriched us with your knowledge, and the topic of the podcast was knowledge transfer in the art world and creative impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you.